Valorant is one of those games that couldn't have come out at a better time. As the esports scene is gaining more and more traction, Valorant is one of the handful of games that launched in such a state of excellence unparalleled by any other game in recent memory, fit for a competitive audience stuck inside. This game comes from a studio that has put 11 years into perfecting a spiritual successor from a mod for Warcraft 3 into the razor-sharp polish of League of Legends. However, that game is a MOBA, so how did Riot go from making this to making one of the most polished and fun competitive shooters rivaling that of Rainbow Six Siege in CSGO? Well, I'll tell you. It was by taking the experience and ideas they learned from League as well as learning from the failures of previous studios who've attempted to break into this space. This game is very well thought out in terms of its art and visual design. A huge emphasis was placed on getting rid of the clutter and making sure everything had an immediate and satisfying feedback. It also shows in how well the game runs as well. To illustrate my point, take for example this frame here where I peek the window as rays. The texture detail isn't extremely detailed, but high enough where it's imperceptible when playing. Take notice of how, even though I'm just a few frames into this peek, how much information is given to the player. I can tell that we have some twin spirits in pursuit of enemies, there's an enemy raise on top of the boxes made even more obvious by the red highlights, where all my allies and spotted enemies are in relation to the map, that Jet sees raise, the spike just got planted, kinda like the bomb in CSGO, Omen smoked and rotated, that all my allies and enemies are alive, and which abilities I have at my disposal along with my health and ammo. All of these are done in a way that is obvious and immediate with no detail being left subtle other than maybe the ammo counter in the bottom right, but it's still extremely easy to quickly check and doesn't include unnecessary information. Even the shadows in this image are pretty bright, and I don't play with increased brightness or any shadow lifts or anything like that. It's just all done in a manner that isn't overwhelming and fits within the game's art style, which is extremely impressive when considering the limits placed on the designers to ensure visibility of enemies. The animations are also snappy, which I really enjoy for this style of game as well. The game plays a lot like CSGO. It has the same urgency with a huge emphasis on a person's aim, with gunfights coming down to mere milliseconds of a difference. However, the biggest difference lies in the abilities. Instead of placing exclusive emphasis on aim and recoil control, abilities have the potential to set up amazing plays, especially when a team synergize. Most of the characters are focused on certain playstyles, like Reyna's ability to basically just snowball around off just a single kill, or Sage's ability to act as a guardian over the team. This doesn't mean that all of the skills aren't transferable, but it's definitely obvious when someone's new to a character versus it being their main. This of course also aids in playing the game, as I eventually got bored with CSGO because of how sharply focused the game is on its gunplay and maybe a few dozen grenade spots. But with this game, switching to a new character means learning entirely new strategies, synergies, strengths, weaknesses, roles, best practices, and map control on top of what's made obvious on paper. However, while the abilities can be game changers when used properly, they don't distract entirely from the gunplay. No matter how well a person utilizes their abilities, they will never beat someone who can just out-aim them at every corner. Which really shows how well balanced this game is, that they're able to design potentially game-changing utility, but it still doesn't take away from a person's raw ability to just simply click people's heads, which still keeps in the spirit of competition where everything is the team's fault and no one else's. There are ultimate abilities, but even though they're impactful, they still require a great deal of strategy to use effectively, and in a lot of cases can serve as a double-edged sword. All of this is fun, which is something that is sometimes lost in competitive games. Even though all of this is extremely well balanced and well thought out, there are no defined ways to use the abilities, nor defined strategies to take sites. That might change in the future when there's more of an established meta, but the capability to just use abilities in ways that are just over the top or unexpected is there. It isn't always just pure sweat central all the time. There's a lot of ways to just kick back and enjoy this game in a more casual way, which is impressive. Not many competitive games are able to do that. Even League for the better part of a couple of years has been basically ironing out any of the fun in the game.
Revealing area. remaining.
If you have ever watched or played Counter-Strike, then this game is gonna feel right at home. The attackers attempt to plant the spike, totally not a bomb, at one of the bomb sites on the map, while the defenders keep them from planting. Attackers win if the spike detonates, without being defused by the defenders, or all defenders are dead. Team rotates halfway, and yada yada yada. You buy your weapons and abilities from money earned throughout the match. Weapons and abilities are saved if you survive at the end of the round. Just for the people who haven't played or watched CS, for one, where have you been? Here's why the buy system is significant. The ability to buy weapons forces teams to treat their money as if it's a team cash pool, meaning money can be shared by purchasing weapons for teammates. If one person is behind, another player can easily buy for you to make sure that the team isn't dragged behind by someone carrying around a pistol. Not only this, but it opens up macro strategies that impact half the game by taking advantage of the economy. Saving, ecoing, or spending lightly, or full buying are all valuable options at a team's disposal, and can easily make or break games. By spending wisely, entire games can be turned around, but it still always requires the skill and cohesion of the players, which is necessary for a competitive game. Economies are easy to follow, yet add an extra layer of depth to a game. It's actually impressive that such a simple feature fundamentally changes a game. The design of the maps also complement the gameplay and objectives. All of the maps follow a formula, but not in a bad way. They all follow the tried and true 3-lane map design to some degree, but all have their own spin on the concept, their own identity. It's actually quite impressive that all of the maps do use the 3-lane map design, but it never feels like I'm just playing Dust 2 over and over again. Each map has its own unique style and gameplay that departs from the formula enough to feel unique from one another. From Bhutan's temples and 3 bomb sites in Haven to Morocco's sandy back alleys and portals in Bind, all of the maps are not only visually diverse but mechanically as well. Did I mention they're based on real locations as well? These maps are some of my favorites in any games I've ever played, rivaling some of my all-time favorite maps like Midship from Halo 2 or Inferno from CSGO. And that's the new Inferno, not the old one. The maps consistently deliver no matter which one is played, with Split being maybe the worst one just due to the verticality and the amount of corners to hide around, but it's still extremely enjoyable, especially with shotguns. This game is a must-play for fans of shooters and competitive games in general. Even if you're not the biggest fan of competitive games, you may find that this game is still enjoyable if played casually. Riot really proved that they're not just a one-trick pony and that their vision and expertise stems far beyond simply League. I came into this game expecting a Korean version of CSGO like the now shut down Ghost in the Shell First Assault, with a lot more polish, which actually would have satisfied me since I kind of have a weird thing for Korean shooters, but I was left with something greater. By the way, for anyone wondering why I haven't used any music from the game, most of the music from the game is extremely copyrighted and actual songs that are like from the charts. So yeah, each character has their own theme song. My personal favorite has to be Jet, who has Boss by Doja Cat as her theme, which is just amazing for obvious reasons. Raze has a really good theme song as well. I also feel cheated as an American because the themes for other countries are definitely better. Like the one for Brazil has Tropculas in it, and the one for Korea like perfectly fits this game. That's not to say that the American one isn't good, but I mean it is, it's great, but definitely not as good as the other ones. Figured I'd mention the music because it is worth a listen to. But to wrap it all up though, if I were to give this game a score, it's basically a 9 out of 10. There are some flaws that are really specific, but unfortunately they're not within the scope of this video. So if you want to see an in-depth critique of this game, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. I'm trying to get into a weekly schedule for video releases now, so expect a new video sometime next week. However, till then, this is Bloody Roses saying, 안녕히 가세요.